everybody, how's it going out there? This is Shelby Young, fitness coordinator for Hampshire Hills Athletic Club in Milford, New Hampshire. So this is going to be nutrition discussion education number 7, and it will probably be the last live one I'm doing for a little while because we got the good news that Hampshire Hills is going to be able to start reopening to members on starting this coming Monday, June 1st. So there's obviously going to be some restrictions in place. We're going to be doing everything we can possible to help maintain social distancing, keep everybody safe and healthy. We've spread out all of the equipment within the fitness center and onto tennis court 3. We've added plexiglass defender shields between the cardio equipment, and we're going to have limited numbers of people within the fitness center at any given time, and they're going to have to schedule their workout time online using the app. Which all the details of that will be forthcoming very soon. But like I said, we're very excited that we're going to be able to get to reopen. All the staff's going to be wearing masks. We are not requiring members to wear masks, but we will provide them, and we do recommend them. We'll also be providing gloves if anybody would like those as well. And we're going to be cleaning fastidiously to keep in line with the state's requirements and just to keep everybody safe and healthy. So like I said, sadly, this is going to be most likely the last live nutrition discussion, at least for a while. We'll see how my schedule pans out next week. I'm in the process of rescheduling all of my clients, so we'll see how that goes. So quick disclaimer, once again, I am not a medical doctor or a registered dietitian. I'm merely here to provide you with some nutritional guidelines. If you have a medical condition that could be exacerbated by a sudden change in diet, we recommend that you speak to your PCP or a registered dietitian. So that being said, let's get into today's topic, which is going to be strategies for healthy dining out now that a lot more restaurants are open, including the Hills restaurant here, which is open for outdoor dining and takeout. So dining out is obviously a fun thing to do. It's a nice luxury to have. It's great to not have to cook everything yourself all the time, although the advantage, if you're really trying to keep track of your diet in a really tight and controlled way, is that if you're making all of the food, you know exactly what goes into all of the food because you're there for yourself. You know what's going into all the sauces. You know how much of each ingredient is in there. Which, if you're using a tracking app, it's really easy to keep track of your calories, macronutrients, all that stuff. When you're dining out, you have a lot less control over that. Most restaurants now will provide you with a calorie counts next to their food in order to help you at least keep track of that. And many apps will have popular restaurant chains regular dishes on there. They might not have like a daily special that could get changed on there, but if you're going to Chili's, they'll probably have the Fiesta chicken or whatever you're ordering on there if it's from a regular chain. A one-off, a mom and pop, a small local business, they're probably not going to have that data within the app. And so you can always ask the waiter or waitress if you can get the ingredient list from the chef or the cook. It'll take a little bit extra time. But once again, the amount of time that you invest into this and how fastidious you are with it is going to depend on it. Once again, is it something that's going to directly affect a medical issue? In which case, you're going to have to be very careful. Think of somebody who has a severe peanut allergy. They really need to know if there's any possible exposure, cross-contamination or otherwise, to peanuts or nut products. So it's not that unheard of. That being said, you don't have to be annoying about it. If you don't have celiac disease, if you don't have a distinct medical gluten sensitivity, if you're just trying to avoid gluten in order to, if you happen to have some gastrointestinal distress from gluten, then you can probably get away with just eating products that don't actually contain gluten. But you don't have to worry as much about like cross-contamination of like, well, did they cut my rice pasta with the same knife that they used on the bread? They probably didn't, but you're not going to die from it. So always just kind of keep that in mind, that if you tell somebody that you have a distinct food allergy and you don't, it's really inconsiderate, and it actually puts a lot of extra stress onto the kitchen staff in order to try to accommodate those needs. So some ways that you can make dining out healthy is once again, look up what you're going to eat ahead of time. Hey, Alex. Hey, Kim. Hey, Mom. I hope everybody's doing well out there today. You can find the menus for just about any place online now. So if you say, I know that I'm going to go to the Longhorn this Friday for my meal out, you can look up online and see what the food is, what the calorie counts are. A lot of times they'll even give you the weights of any protein products that are going to go into it, so you can kind of plug those into your app if it isn't already in there. Like I said, a lot of chain regular dishes will already be stored in like MyFitnessPal and some of the other big apps. So you can plan out your meal ahead of time, so that way you know how much of each thing is going to be going into your dinner, and that will help you plan ahead of time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Uh, so that will, once again, you can kind of plan your day around that, especially if you're somebody who does a cheat meal once a week, once every 2 weeks, if, or just that way if you're really trying to keep tight track on how many calories, how many grams of protein, carbs, fats, whatever it is you're taking in, by going and deciding ahead of time, you're less likely to get there and panic. It's the old planning to, or failing to plan is planning to fail. That if you go in and just go, I'm going to wing it, which if you've got that kind of fudge room in your diet and you can go in and just go, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it tonight. I'm just going to let the reins off and I'm just going to get back on track tomorrow. If you're at a place where you can do that, cool, go for it, rock and roll. Um, Otherwise, if you're, once again, if you're trying to be really tight about this stuff and you're really trying to get to lower levels of body fat, improve your performance, then you're going to have to be a little bit more rigorous with these things. So places that people commonly get tripped up here, don't don't show up to the restaurant starving. Make sure, because as soon as you get there, everything's going to sound amazing. It's going to all smell really, really good. Now, keep in mind, restaurants are designed to sell you food. That's their job. That's their job. That's their goal, is to get you to buy the biggest, most expensive meal, or as many separate things, drinks, apps, main course, dessert. All of that stuff. They want to make money. That's why they're in business, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are like, you know what, I'm just not going to eat. I'm going to skip breakfast and lunch today. I'm just going to go and just going to, go whole hog on dinner. Once again, like, you do you. It's probably going to be a lot harder to resist temptation once you get there. So if you're trying to be good and, keep things in moderation, it's a lot easier to do that if you've been eating healthy throughout the day. So you can, if you're planning to have like a really carb heavy dinner, then yeah, you can go lighter on your carbs through breakfast and lunch and in the afternoon. So that way you have that room within your diet, within your macronutrient allotment, whatever it's going to be, in order to have, that bowl of pasta, or, the baked bread that you love so much, like Texas Roadhouse bread is like crack, that stuff's super addictive. But once again, you want to kind of plan your day sort of around that. Show up well hydrated. Order a glass. If you didn't, then make sure you get a glass of water as soon as you get there. Something to kind of help, take up a little bit of space in your stomach and help you slow down. I don't recommend starting off with an alcoholic drink, for a couple of reasons. One is that it's going to lower your inhibitions, so you're going to have a tougher time making those good, healthy choices once you've got a little bit of social lubrication in you. Um, Two being that alcohol takes preference in the body when it comes to digestion. So if your body is, basically think of it like waiting in line to get into a movie theater or a concert, back when we could do those things, which hopefully we'll be able to get to do those again in the not too distant future. But if you're waiting, and if you've got your meal is waiting in line and then you drink alcohol, alcohol cuts to the front of that line, and your body will stop digesting just about everything else while it processes that alcohol. And while that food is just sitting there waiting to be digested, it's more likely to get shuttled off and stored as fat. It's just unfortunately the way that your body prioritizes things. So ideally, it'd be better to wait to have, the drink after dinner. But once again, some drinks pair really, really well with certain foods. White wine with fish, red wine with red meat, that whole thing. So you also make your choices with that. That being said, alcohol can also carry a lot extra calories with it. So uh, a light cocktail, a little bit of tequila and soda water and lime and something like that, that's going to be pretty light. You probably only get about 100 calories out of that or so. Versus, you have a big, heavy, stout craft beer that could have, 300 to 400 calories into it. So, and if you have, 2 or 3 of those with dinner, you've now basically added on an entire extra meal just in the alcohol that you're consuming along with your entire meal that you're there for. So be careful with alcohol. You should be careful with alcohol consumption in general. I don't think I need to say that, but some people need to hear it because that's one of those sneaky ways that people will miscalculate how many calories they're actually taking in. That I've had clients that are like, well, they eat really healthy during the day, but then they have 3 beers at night, and it's like, okay, well, so you just added on 600 to 900 calories onto your daily intake already. So that multiply that out throughout the week, and you're going to start adding on pounds rather quickly. So make sure that you don't show up to the restaurant starving. Drink your glass of water as soon as you get there. Plan what meal you're going to have ahead of time and stick with it. Try to be the first one to order, because that's where a lot of people will also start to falter, is that you have your meal in mind, you know what you're going to do, and then everybody else starts ordering, and man, her food sounds good. They listen to it. It's like, maybe I really want the buttered scallops on the big pile of pasta instead of the chicken and broccoli and rice pilaf that I was planning to have. Once again, you don't have to be a monk about this stuff unless it's really really important to you for your physique goals, or once again if it's going to affect something medically. So one bad meal is not going to kill you. It's not going to throw your goals completely out the window. It's just one meal off the rails. We don't want to think about it in terms of like good food and bad food. We're just trying to create a healthier lifestyle overall. So try to be the first to order. Be careful of the food that they bring out to you ahead of time. Things like chips and salsa and bread and butter, especially at like Greek and Italian restaurants, or especially like bread and oil. We talked about that fat carries 9 calories per gram, and butter and oil are fats, which healthy fats, it's totally fine, but it's an easy way to overdo the calories again. And it's tough to calculate how much you're actually taking in when you're taking a big hunk of bread and just dunking it in oil. You don't know how much of it's getting absorbed. But if it's dripping, then it's probably a good amount, and that's going to be a big whack of calories before you've even actually gotten to your meal. It's pretty easy to put away an extra 1,000 calories of chips and salsa before your food even arrives, which if you're having chips and salsa, chances are you're at a Mexican restaurant, which it's not impossible to eat healthy at a Mexican restaurant, but it's also not the easiest. So if you've got 1,000 calories of chips and salsa before you even get to your grande burrito, which could be another 1,500 calories, it's 2,500 calories in a day. That's more in one meal. That's more than what most people will eat in a day. So add on a couple cocktails to that, and maybe a little flan for dessert, and you're going to be pretty well stuffed. So just something to be careful of. Some ways that you can make things a little bit easier on yourself is, when you order your meal, have them pack half of it away in a to-go box right out of the gate. So you're only going to, because most portion sizes these days are just absolutely massive. It's way more than the majority of people need to eat in one sitting. Once again, if you have fasted for most of the day and you have all of your calories basically left for the day, and you're like, what, this is going to be my big meal for the day. All right, cool. Then you've developed enough of a deficit through a restricted eating window in order to make that work. But for some people, that doesn't really work well. So just to be careful on that. So you can have them pack half your food in a to-go box, and that way you get 2 meals out of it for the price of 1, which is a nice way to save a little bit of cash along the way. Or you can have somebody at the table split a meal with you, especially if you're going out with your significant other, you're going out with some friends, and you're trying to, hopefully your friends and family are being supportive of your new healthy lifestyle choices that you're trying to make. In which case, maybe you can get them on the bandwagon. You'd be like, hey, this is the entree I really want. Would you want to split this with me? Some restaurants, and I understand from the business perspective, but I still, it kind of gets my crawl a little bit, that they'll charge you a fee for sharing a plate with somebody else. And you could say that it's they're paying the extra labor to do the extra dishes. It's just they don't like missing out on the chance to sell you 2 entrees. That's really what it is in the end. But in the end, the little extra fee they're going to charge for that, hey Kip, is not going to be it's still going to be way less than ordering 2 completely separate entrees. And once again, you're only going to get, I was just saying that. It is unfortunately, Sarah, that a lot of restaurants will charge for plate sharing. Like I said, they're a business, they're trying to make money, but even, they might charge you $2, $4, whatever it is. That's still way less than what it would be for each of you to order an entirely separate entree. So you're still going to wind up saving in the long run, especially if you're splitting the bill with your friend as well. And it's going to be better for your health in the long run to not eat quite so much all at once. So that's another way that you can help mitigate some of the damage that you're going to be doing. Obviously, you could just choose really healthy restaurants to go eat at and pick the healthiest meal on the menu, which, like I said, you can usually look up what you're going to be eating ahead of time in order to kind of figure out what's going to be the easiest to fit within your calorie allotment or your macronutrient allotment. Or like I said, if I joke about fudge room that the leaner you are, the less body fat you have, the more fudge room you have. Like you literally can have more fudge if you want it. So if you're already like at a body fat level that you're really happy with, you're active, you're healthy, everything's going well, and Saturday night is your night just to kind of cut loose and rock with it, go for it. That's fine. This is usually going to be more of a struggle for the people that are like just kind of getting into the healthy lifestyle. I was talking with a nutrition client the other day who we figured out that going 4 weeks in between their cheat meals was just too much. So we're going to try for 3 and see how that goes. If 3 is too much, we're going to try for 2. If 2 is too much, we'll go to 1. But it's all going to be very individual. That some people never feel like they need to eat anything unhealthy. They can just maintain their discipline, and they will eat the perfectly healthy foods all the time, and everything's great. That's fine. It's not the vast majority of people. Most people like having a little bit of leeway, and you can think of it as kind of earning your cheat meal. That if you're eating really healthy throughout the week, you're exercising regularly, you're getting enough sleep, your stress under control, you're doing all the right stuff, then you can have that cheat meal, and it's not really going to be a big deal. Once again, the problem is when it starts to snowball. If the cheat meal turns into the cheat weekend, turns into, this diet thing just isn't working out, I'm going to get back on it next month. That kind of, you didn't even really get a chance to start working your way up the hill before you slid back down and had to start over again. And that's going to happen. You're going to have relapse. We talked about the trans-theoretical model where, you've got pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and the inevitable relapse. Relapse will happen at some point for the vast majority of people. Obviously, if you're dealing with like a genuine addiction to alcohol or something else like that, then relapse should be avoided at absolute all costs. Food addiction is a really, really tough one. I talked about this a little bit. That it was I was watching an episode of My Strange Addiction, was a reality show. I don't even know if it's still on, but it was a woman talked about that she was addicted to eating toilet paper, and it's like you can avoid other things that you're addicted to, like avoiding alcohol, avoiding drugs. It's not easy, but it can be done. You can't really avoid toilet paper. If you're genuinely addicted to food, you can't avoid food. You have to eat food in order to survive. We haven't figured out a way around that one yet. Short of like going intravenous, I guess, would be the only, but who wants to do that? Is there a reason for cravings? So good question, Sarah. So cravings, a lot of times it isn't what you think it is. That if you're having a craving for something salty, it might be that your general electrolytes are too low. Hey, Sean. In which case, that having something with a little bit of extra, salt or magnesium in it will help satiate that. Sometimes you'll have a craving for something sweet, but it's actually, once again, you're lower on electrolytes. It's all very chemically based. We'll also sometimes have cravings in relation to stress. So if you're feeling really stressed out and tired, you're going to be more likely to crave things that are less healthy for you, in which just means that you need to find some different coping mechanisms. So it can be tough because people will talk about like hearing a food call to them, and it really is a challenge where you're walking by a bakery and just that smell hits you and it's just overwhelming. So my feeling with this is that you're making really good progress when you're able to slow down and actually have those internal conversations. Hey Ashley, hey Diane. So when you're able to have that conversation of, do I really need that piece of cake that's in front of me right now? Then you know that you've really made progress because it's not just I want that, I'm eating it, it's mindless and it just happens. That you're actually able to kind of take that time. So how do you counteract the need for sweets without eating the actual sweets? So you can try exercising to kind of reduce that momentary craving for it. You can try eating healthier options, so going for fruit. So like strawberries are one of my go-tos for a lot of people. That if you're like, well, I really love that something sweet after dinner, especially after like a really like comfort food, meatloaf, something after you've had like a very hearty meal that a lot of time that sometimes will have a lot of that kind of salt flavor to it, that having something sweet with it can kind of help counteract that, will kind of help balance things out a little bit. There's a term that we use which is called hyperpalatable food, which is, if you think of your taste buds as little bits of having sensitivity levels, when you eat something that has a lot of, especially like artificial sweeteners in it, or just like high fructose corn syrup, things like that, that's hyper palatable. It is way sweeter than anything you could ever eat in nature, and so that becomes then your taste buds' new threshold for what sweet actually is. And it takes some time away from those foods in order to kind of reset your taste buds, in order to realize that things like strawberries and cherries and that kind of stuff, that's about as sweet as anything that you should ever eat. Which, if you were out in nature, just hunting and foraging, then that would be the sweetest thing that you could find. But because we're able to create artificial foods that are way beyond that, it's like I said, it sets a new baseline. So when we do a detox or a cleanse or whatever you want to call it, or just not eating junk food for quite a while, and that can be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's different for everybody depending on how long it's going to take to get there. Then when you go back and you eat something that has like high fructose corn syrup in it, it's going to taste disgustingly sweet. It's not even going to be enjoyable for most people. Some people will be like, damn, this is what I was missing, and they're going to still struggle. And once again, that could be a genuine sugar addiction, and they're going to have a tougher time than somebody who's not quite that far down the rabbit hole. But like I said, for a lot of people, take time away from the overly processed foods, and they're going to be able to enjoy, once again, things like fruit are going to be the sweetest thing that they're going to need. So I think we covered pretty well the idea of dining out. Hey Karina. So if anybody has any more questions on that, feel free to shoot me an email, syoung@hampshirehills.com. So we're going to talk a little bit about grocery shopping now, and we have a few minutes left. Because obviously you should be doing the vast majority of your cooking at home. If you're dining out for every meal, one, that's got to be really expensive, and two, you don't know what you're eating. You can't know exactly what you're eating unless like the chef personally, unless they said you're asking them exactly what the amounts of all of the ingredients are that's going into all of the food that you're eating. So you should be learning to cook. It's really not that hard. Get yourself a few basic utensils, a baking pan, a frying pan, a decent set of knives, some measuring cups, a food scale if you want to be really precise with things. And, the internet is just a ridiculous resource of healthy recipes. They're totally out there. One Google search last night, and I came up with a dozen recipes for the chicken dish I was making. It's really not that hard. And I've got 2 meals out of it because it's actually going to be my leftovers for lunch today once I get done with you people here. Um, so it's going to be some of the same steps for grocery shopping as it is for portion size is so important out here. Yeah, it definitely is. And if you guys look back a few sessions ago where we talked about using your hand to figure out your portion sizes, it really is invaluable that you can. It's really tough to overeat on just like green vegetables, leafy green vegetables, that kind of stuff. And even on a lot of fruits, it can be difficult to overeat. It's usually going to be more starchy carbs, sweets, fat intake. I'd say it's pretty rare that people are eating too much protein, but it is possible. But it's just because protein has such a heavy effect on your satiety hormones, the ones that make you feel full, your leptin, ghrelin, neuropeptide, PYY. But some people might be just taking in too much protein and not getting in enough of the vitamins and minerals, the micronutrients that you're going to get from fruits and vegetables. Or they might not be getting in enough carbohydrates to fuel the activity that they're doing. So plan out your shopping list, stick to your shopping list. So plan out the meals that you're going to have for the week if you're going to be food prepping. Like for a lot of people, Sunday afternoon winds up being a good day to just food prep, to just make a bunch of things, throw it in the slow cooker, portion it out like we just talked about portion sizes. Get a good set of like glass Pyrex containers in order to store your food in the fridge. So that way, once again, you've got a plan. You're going to be able to just grab your food from the fridge, reheat it if you need to. Obviously, it always tastes best when it's fresh out of the oven, fresh out of the slow cooker, fresh out of the frying pan, whatever you want to do. But being able to reheat food in order to have it throughout the week it's a godsend. It's fantastic. It's a great way, once again, to make sure that you've got healthy foods on hand for when those cravings do inevitably hit. So make your shopping list based on the foods that you're planning to make, and also to have some healthy snacks available. So we've talked about like using Ziploc bags to partition out if you're going to have some nuts, raisins. Dried fruit can be good, but it also is a really easy way to take in a ton of sugar without realizing it. That because it doesn't have all the fiber, it doesn't have the mass of like apricots. I love dried apricots. They're a delicious little snack treat, but it's really easy to just keep putting your hand back in that container, and the next thing you know, you're like, crap, I just ate like way more apricots than I could have ever eaten had they been whole. But because they're dried, cool. Yeah, you're able to eat them way quicker, which also means that you're going to spike your insulin a lot faster because you're not going to have the water and the fiber that it is normally accompanying with it. That will help slow digestion, slow the spike of your insulin, and slow the blood sugar uptake. So you've got your list. You're sticking to your list. You've got the meals prepped out in your head. Write them down. Like I said, try to go in with a plan. When you get into the grocery store, try to stick to the perimeter as much as possible. If you're getting dairy products, get in there. Get your eggs. Get if you're using low-fat milk, a milk substitute. Yeah, exactly. Dried fruit gets us all. There's not going to be too much that you need down the aisles. There's going to be some stuff. You can get your rice, you can get your oatmeal. Canned vegetables are totally fine. I would get the ones that are not packed in salt, and same thing if you're going to do canned fruit, ones that's not packed in syrup or sugar, because it just adds a ton of extra on there, and to me it kind of makes it taste gross. I prefer fresh fruits and vegetables whenever possible, but canned and frozen are not bad. They have the same nutritional value as the fresh stuff. But so we're sticking to the perimeter. So you're hitting the dairy section if you're getting products from there. Your Greek yogurts, kefir if you're looking to get some extra probiotics is a good way to go for that, as well as the Greek yogurt. Going up to the fresh bar to get things like sauerkraut, kimchi is another great way to get some extra probiotics in, which is Korean fermented vegetables. Really tasty. It's a really unique flavor. I definitely recommend it. Kombucha is a lot of times also found over in the produce section. It's another way to get your probiotics in. Obviously, we want to spend a good amount of time in the produce section. Get your fresh fruits, get your fresh vegetables. They're usually not that expensive, especially if you're getting in-season fruits. So if you just love like blueberries year-round, expect to pay a lot more for them when they're out of season. Right now they're pretty cheap, but yeah, it's going to more than double in price trying to buy them out of season. And it's also good to cycle your fruits and vegetables, so that way you're not always eating the exact same thing. Because that way you can make sure that you're getting in all of your vitamins and minerals that you need, all the different phytochemicals, the things that help keep your body in balance. Um, Hit the fresh fish section. Yeah, fish is excellent for you. It's definitely a very healthy food. Which same thing. You can do canned tuna. Obviously we want to be careful of excessive mercury intake. But there's the canned salmon, canned chicken. If you're not somebody who likes to cook chicken or is terribly good at it, for me, the fresh cooked chicken is always going to be way better than the canned chicken. The rotisserie chickens are a good way to go if you're in a pinch, but you want to be careful because a lot of times the seasoning that they pack the chicken in is just packed full of salt, and sometimes with sugar as well, because they want to make it taste good. And obviously, salt and sugar taste good. There's a reason why we like those foods. So be careful of the rotisserie chicken for that. But every once in a while, like I said, I usually like once every couple weeks I'll get a rotisserie chicken. I separate the whole thing out as soon as I get it home, so that way it also doesn't get like that kind of slimy gross if it's sitting in its own juices for too long. And then we eat whatever we're gonna have for the night, and then the rest we put in a Pyrex container. It stays in the fridge, and you can throw it on a salad the next day. You can make it into lettuce wrap, make a lettuce wrap taco with shredded chicken. So there's a lot of things you can do with that. Like I said, the fruits and vegetables are good. Try to avoid the bakery department if you can. So I worked in grocery stores for a long time, and it actually is a little trick that they do. They will pump the bakery smell through the air vents because they want you to go to the bakery. The bakery is obviously, it's a high profit yield for them, and that stuff goes bad quickly, so they have to throw it out almost every night. So they want to sell it. They want to sell it fresh. They want to sell it that day. But it's also, that's why you feel like as soon as you walk in the door, like the bakery is just calling you there, for the donuts and the cakes and that stuff. So if you can walk by, with your hands up, your blinders up, while you're walking the perimeter, you got to watch out for the tables of like the snack cakes and all the junk food and stuff that they put around the perimeter, because they know that some people don't do that. And that some people don't go up and down the aisles, that they just stick to the outside, and they want to still try to entice you with that impulse buy. It's the same reason why product manufacturers will pay extra to put food right about eye level, so that like I think that 4 to 6 foot shelf range, usually you're going to be able to find a lot more healthier options if you're willing to look above or below that. Not always. If you're in the cookie aisle, like it doesn't matter. You can look up, down, left, right. It's the cookie aisle. You're already in trouble. What about lunch meats? Same thing. I would always rather go with the fresh stuff over the lunch meats. Same thing, especially if you're trying to keep your sodium intake intact or in check. If you have high blood pressure issues like that, deli meats. Yeah. In a pinch, you can do that. You want to be careful. The data is kind of conflicting of, whether nitrates are, everything has a point where it's not good for you once you get to too high of a level. And deli meats tend to be pretty high in the nitrate department. There has been some studies that show that for some people that nitrates in a certain amount are actually beneficial. There's more that have shown that it's not. So that tends to be the problem. It's the additives that they put into the deli meat. But it's one of those, if you need protein and you're in kind of a quick fix, it isn't necessarily the best choice, but I would take a deli meat over a fried meat, if that makes sense. Or like a deli meat, or like, the deviled ham in a can, the stuff that comes like packed, or like Spam, which to me is just disgusting, but to each their own. In the end, it's also, what does your budget allow? Because obviously, I'd love to tell everybody, go buy the grass-fed organic beef, straight from the local butcher, that kind of stuff. It's not always cheap. You're going to pay for quality. So you have to, feed yourself, feed your family on what your budget will allow. But you want to try to still make the healthiest choices possible within that. So we've run a little bit over today. Hopefully that gave you guys some good tips on grocery shopping and dining out. If you would like more help, if you'd like to work on either in-person personal training, dietary advice, things like that, You can contact me, SYOUNG, at HampshireHills.com. Again, Hampshire Hills will be reopening this coming Monday, June 1st. Most things are going to require pre-registration in order to schedule time, whether it's to use the fitness center. Obviously, if you're going to be working with a personal trainer, then you need to have a scheduled appointment. All the Group X classes are going to be pre-register only, but we hope to see you all soon. We hope to see you here at the Hills Restaurant. The salon is going to be opening, well, it has been open for a little bit, but so they're going to be still doing cut and color. Massage therapy is going to be getting back on track. And we hope to see you all soon. Everybody stay safe and healthy out there. Checking on your friends and loved ones who might be having a tough time with this. But as things slowly start to reopen, maintain your social distances, wear your mask, wash your hands, do all the stuff that you should be doing anyway. But I hope to see you all soon. Like I said, this might be the last live nutrition for a little while. We'll kind of see how the schedule plays out. But I've had fun doing this. I hope you guys have learned something. If you have more questions, feel free to contact me. And everybody have a great day out there.